Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the obsidian monolith that had materialized in Geneva 3 months ago, her fingers hovering over its surface. The alien structure hummed with a frequency that made her teeth ache, its surface rippling like liquid mercury under the harsh lights of the research facility. The architects left specific instructions, Ambassador Krelix repeated, his translator device rendering his clicking mandibles into flat, emotionless English. Only those who possess the authorized access codes may interface with the gateway. Your species has been evaluated. You lack the necessary technological sophistication. Sarah had heard this speech 17 times in the past week. The Galactic Council had arrived shortly after the monolith, bearing news that shattered humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Earth was a backwater, a primitive world that had only recently discovered fire by their standards. The gateway was a gift to advanced civilizations, a doorway to instantaneous travel across the galaxy. Humanity, they declared, was not invited. "We've tried everything," Colonel Morrison muttered beside her, his frustration evident in every syllable. "Every code, every algorithm, every mathematical constant known to science. Nothing works." Sarah barely heard him. She was studying the interface, the way symbols shifted and reformed across its surface. The other species had approached it with confidence, entering their elaborate codes with practiced ease. The Xanthari had used a 50-digit sequence based on quantum entanglement. The Vexenari had employed a biological signature encoded in their neural patterns. But Sarah noticed something the others hadn't. Every species that successfully accessed the gateway approached it the same way, with expectation, with assumption, with the weight of their civilization's achievements behind them. Humanity had none of that. They were the newcomers, the primitives, the ones who didn't belong. "Let me try," Sarah said quietly. Krelix's compound eyes swiveled toward her with what might have been amusement.
"Dr. Chen, we have explained this repeatedly."
"Your species, I know what you've explained." Sarah stepped forward, her hand already reaching for the interface. "But you've never actually asked what the gateway wants, have you? You've only assumed." Before anyone could stop her, her fingers touched the surface. It was warm, almost alive, and the symbols beneath her touch scattered like startled fish. The monolith's hum intensified, rising to a pitch that made everyone in the facility cover their ears. Text appeared in the air before her, shimmering in every language simultaneously. Authorization required. Sarah took a breath. She thought about the codes they'd tried, the complexity the other species had employed, the centuries of their achievements encoded in mathematical precision. Then she thought about humanity. Chaotic, contradictory, impossibly stubborn humanity, who had looked at the stars with nothing but dreams and determination. She raised her hands to the interface and began to type. Not a code. Not an algorithm. Just letters, simple and clear. Sarahchen. The facility fell silent. Even the monolith's hum ceased. That's your name," Krelix stammered, his translator struggling with his confusion. "That's not a code. That's not..." The sky opened. Not metaphorically. The ceiling of the facility simply ceased to exist, revealing a cascade of light that poured down like liquid starlight. The monolith exploded outward, not destructively but expansively, its substance flowing and reforming until it became a doorway large enough to swallow cities. And beyond it, the universe waited. Sarah staggered back, shielding her eyes from the brilliance. Through the gateway she could see worlds, thousands of them, millions, connected by threads of light that pulsed with possibility. But more than that, she could feel it. The gateway wasn't just a machine. It was alive, or something close to it, and it had been waiting. Not for codes, not for credentials. For someone who would approach it as an individual, not as a representative of their species' achievements. "Impossible," Krelix breathed. "The gateway requires proof of advancement, of worthiness. It requires someone who sees themselves first," Sarah interrupted, understanding flooding through her. "Every species that's used the gateway has approached it the same way. As ambassadors, as representatives, as the sum total of their civilization's knowledge." She turned to face the alien, her eyes still adjusting to the light. But the architects didn't build this for civilizations. They built it for people. The implications crashed through the facility like a shockwave. Humanity hadn't failed because they lacked sophistication. Every other species had failed because they possessed too much of it. They'd forgotten how to be individuals, lost beneath the weight of their collective identities. Humans, chaotic and ungovernable, had never learned to be anything else. The gateway will respond to anyone, Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength. Not anyone qualified, not anyone authorized. Just anyone. Any individual who approaches it as themselves. Colonel Morrison was already moving, his hand reaching for his radio. We need to inform the UN, NATO, No, Sarah said firmly. That's exactly what we shouldn't do. The moment we make this about nations or organizations, we've missed the point. She looked back at the gateway, at the infinite possibilities spreading beyond it. This isn't humanity's gateway. It's not Earth's gateway. It's everyone's gateway. Anyone who wants to explore, to discover, to reach beyond themselves, they just have to ask. Krelix's mandibles worked soundlessly. Around them, the other alien observers stood in various states of shock, their carefully constructed hierarchies crumbling. The Galactic Council had maintained order for millennia by controlling access to the Gateway Network, using it as proof of worthiness, of advancement. Humanity had just democratized the stars. Sarah stepped toward the gateway again, feeling its warmth wash over her. She could hear it now, not in words but in understanding. It had been singing to Earth since it arrived, waiting for someone to listen without the static of civilization's expectations drowning out its call. Where will you go? Morrison asked, his voice subdued. Sarah smiled, thinking of all the humans who would follow, each bringing their own names, their own dreams, their own stubborn refusal to accept limitations. Everywhere, she said, and stepped through into infinity. Behind her, the gateway hummed a welcoming song, and across Earth, billions of individual humans looked up at the sky and began to dream. At the end,